I love coming to Unity Church of Hawaii from the other side. Yes, I have to say that at least once every single time. For many, many reasons. One of them is the fact that there are a group of people who are headed by one absolutely amazing lady, and I'm gonna upset the apple cart here a little bit. I know she doesn't like to be acknowledged in this way, but I want to honor and appreciate Alethea Train for what she does. Some truly amazing, moving music is something that is a regular staple here at Unity Church of Hawaii, and I deeply appreciate all of the things that you have done in setting up the vibrations and the resonance in this community. It's a truly fantastic, amazing thing. You bring things together that are sometimes seemingly disparate, and it's a glorious thing to witness. So thank you. She said that she paid me, but she did not pay me. It is an absolute truth. And you see, years ago when I was here as an intern, I actually had an opportunity to be one of those guys that were singing, as you've just heard, and have the opportunity to set a vibration in our community. And for that matter, we set a vibration in our world. So the funny thing is that music and rehearsal and connection and interconnection takes a great deal of commitment and intention to put together. You just witnessed that with these amazing musicians and this amazing leader, and how this can actually come together into being something that is in the flow of life. And that flow can be moving for us. It can bring us this sense of connection, a sense of placement in the world. That flow, when we're in the flow, gives us a sense that everything is well. All is well with my soul. That sense of all is well is something that most of us seek throughout the entirety of our life. And over the course of the last 2 years, maybe one or two of us, perhaps even maybe 45 or 98 of us, have had a bit of a challenge of being in the flow of life. It seems that there is this side against that side. It seems that there is vaccinated or not vaccinated. It seems that there is Republican and Democrat. There seems to be so much dissension in the world, and what we would like to see is things come together in the flow. We would like to see the manner in which there is a music of the spheres that resonates in us. A music of the spheres that gives us a sense that all is well in my world, all is well in my soul. This is an opportunity that we see how life is unfolding in sometimes mysterious ways. It feels and looks and seems as though something is amiss. Yet the truth is that there is nothing amiss. That what we need in our lives, what we need in our world, is a sense of faith. Now, before I was exposed to the teachings of Unity, I was taught that faith was something that I had to go out and get. Or that it wasn't here, there wasn't enough faith, so I had to figure out a way to ask God to give me faith. And the truth of it is, in Unity, that what we recognize is that every single one of us has enough faith for every situation in our lives. The question is, where do I place my faith? Where is my faith leading me today? In what way am I holding my faith toward the dissension and discord that I see, or am I holding my faith into the rehearsal, the connection, the interaction? Am I listening for my cue Or am I listening for a cue that I thought I knew I was supposed to listen to? You see, our lives work in concert with one another. This idea of oneness that we teach in unity is so much more than all of you are going to come into an agreement with me. It is vastly more than that. It's how I can come into an alignment and a union and a flow with life itself. So you see, faith is something that resides within every one of us. And the question that we get to ask of ourselves on a day-by-day basis, especially if we hear disharmony or discord, is how am I in this flow? Where am I directing my faith? Robert Brummett is a unity minister who is responsible for a number of transformational teachings in our movement. He's written a number of books, and one of those books is entitled The Quest for Wholeness. From The Quest for Wholeness, Robert Brummett writes, "We are often admonished to have faith, but actually we cannot not have faith. Faith is fundamental to our nature. To have faith usually means to focus our faith in a particular direction." What's interesting about that is that more often than not, spiritual teachings tell us that we're supposed to focus our faith in a direction that I have chosen. I know what's best. And interestingly enough, it's more about placing our faith in the flow of life, in a recognition that that particular sound in my world is directing me to a new possibility and a new way of being in harmony, being in this place of the music of the spheres. What's fascinating to witness is that oftentimes we can see in our world, for that matter, if we do an assessment occasionally in our own lives, we recognize that we've come and we've sung our part, we've done what we knew we needed to do, and then we run off and leave and wonder why it doesn't sound right. What's more important is to recognize, how can I be in the flow of what's going on in my life and in my world? I hope that you can see that this can be applied in a number of different ways, in a number of different directions. There are so many different ways that we can come into an awareness of where we place our faith in the flow of life, not placing our faith in what we think life should be, but placing our faith into what is. Charles Fillmore is the co-founder of the Unity movement. He recognized the importance of the different powers of Christ that reside in every single one of us. This idea of faith and having all that we need is something that he learned and discerned from the teachings of Jesus. But these teachings were actually the things that he conveyed to encourage and recognize that resides in every single one of us. Charles Fillmore speaks to faith when he says that faith is the perceiving power of the mind, linked with the power to shape substance. Spiritual assurance, the power to do the seemingly impossible. Well, maybe we could use some impossible to actually do some of the impossible in our world today of coming together, of no longer seeing the disparate voices in cacophony, but recognizing, how can I be a part of the harmony of this world? Now, I'm going to mention also, faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance, is the words that Charles Fillmore used. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that every single time I ever read Charles Fillmore, I think, what does that mean? And that's something that I get to lean into. It's not a matter of the fact that this guy wrote something that was confusing. It's more a matter of he was writing about something that is deeper than just the simple words. We live in a world where we think that there is an instantaneous solution to every problem. But that instantaneous solution actually diverts us and prevents us from seeing and being in the flow of life. To actually see and recognize that there is all things working together for the good of all of us. It's necessary and essential that we be in that flow of life. Faith is one of the powers of the Christ that resides in every single human being. That faith has vast potential and possibility in every single one. How we direct that faith can be in the flow and in harmony, just as we've had the opportunity to witness this morning, or it can be out of sync and in cacophony. The question I get to ask myself, the question I'd like to pose to you is, how would you like to be in harmony with life? Would you like to direct your faith to the fact that this is all working together toward a greater good for all of us? Well, we can point to each situation and point to how, well, this is awry. I heard about this person having COVID, and I heard about their divorce, and I heard about that situation, and I can't believe that he has that political viewpoint. We could point to all of those things, but how can we see how those different pieces of the music of the spheres are directing us to sing a song of connection? How can I use my faith to direct me into an awakening and an awareness of the song that's meant to be sung? The harmony and the music of this life is waiting for your part to be sung, to be played, to be beaten upon in a way that sets up a vibration for connection and union for all of us. This requires an element of curiosity. It requires an element of being in the question rather than being in certainty. One of the things that we see in our world is that there are a number of people who are absolutely certain about fill in the blank. Isn't it interesting to note that most people who are certain about one thing or another have created a great deal of suffering, not only for themselves, but a great deal of suffering for all of the world. This suffering takes place whenever we impose our will upon someone else's will. This idea of the Christ has vast expressions and a variety of ways that it shows up. It's important and essential that we honor, appreciate, and respect one another for where we can be in the flow of life and without rigidity. Buddhist teachings speak to the importance of being flexible, of being bendable to the way that life shows up. And it also teaches that when we are rigid and hold fast to a particular opinion or idea, that creates suffering for us. There's an idea that Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist monk, speaks of. It's called Shenpa. Shenpa thrives on the underlying insecurity of living in a world that is always changing. We experience this insecurity as a background of slight unease or restlessness. Now, Pema speaks to slight unease or restlessness, but there's sometimes a lot more than just a bit more than slight unease and restlessness that shows up in our life. When we hold on to and attach to a particular idea or a way that something has to show up, it creates suffering in our lives, and it creates suffering for others. When we are in the flow of life, when we simply allow life to move in and through and as us, that's when we can hold the faith of God as principle. Oh, so I get it, Reverend Gio. It's all about lying in the street and letting everything roll over us, right? No. The idea of being in the flow is bringing your beauty, your voice, your sound into this amazing harmony and connection that is taking place as a symphony, as a beautiful song in this world. Can you hear the music of the spheres? And is it urging you into allowing you to express the greatness that you already are? This is an unfolding and an unfurling that takes place within our soul if we direct our attention to prayer and direct our attention and our commitment in life to meditation. This space of spiritual allowing is so much more than just simply tolerating it. The space of allowing is when we are truly in the flow of our own personal expression. This idea of faith that resides within you is waiting to be expressed in how you bring love, compassion, understanding, and peace into this world. This space of openness is an allowing of faith. Faith directed to a particular ideal or a particular thing results in shinpa, or attachment, or suffering. There is an inner wisdom that resides within you, waiting to be expressed, waiting to be lived in your life and in your world. At the age of 12 years old, I had an experience with that flow, with that inspiration. I received a message that was so significant to me that it affected the rest of my life, but it most certainly affects where I am today. I felt as though I heard and had this sense that I was called to be a minister. It didn't make any sense to me at the time, and when I look back on my 20s and later after that, I also have a question as to, well, what was I hearing? A call from God to become a minister? This call from God continued to resonate throughout my adult life, and it called me to come to serve as an intern at Unity Church of Hawaii. In this very room and in this very sanctuary is where the training to become a minister took place. What I recognize is that story of how stepping into ministry has been challenging, difficult. There's been some disparate voices, and there have been moments where I thought, yeah, you didn't hear a call to ministry. You misheard something entirely. But you see, it's not something that's just about a call to ministry. It's a call for every single one of us. Who are you called to be in your life and in your world? And can you listen to the music that you are called to sing and speak? Can you listen to and continue to hold in faith your contribution to the music of the spheres? How can we live in the question in order to open ourselves up to the faith of what we are meant to be? Once again, it's allowing. But it isn't passive allowing. It's an active allowing in order to bring forth the circumstances of the world, the circumstances of our relationships, in order to allow us to blossom and truly flow in our world and in our lives. Robert Brummett is also responsible. I mentioned him earlier. He's a unity minister who's written a number of books. He's also responsible for founding the program from Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute on spiritual direction. Now, there's a lot of people who are not entirely certain about spiritual direction and what it means. It sounds like it's therapy, but actually it's about discovering within every person who is interested in one-on-one, or for that matter, community-wide spiritual direction, to see, where is God leading me? Where is the ground of being taking me? How can I listen to what Holy Spirit may be directing me to be, to sing? So this idea of spiritual direction takes the circumstances of our lives in order to come into a deeper awareness of our holy purpose, of the divine appointment, of our calling, if you will. Robert Brummett speaks to how sometimes this world can give us information that we may not fully understand when he writes about, we honor our human response to the situation and then open ourselves to the possibility of a spiritual gift within the suffering. You see, as we deal with challenges or difficulties in our lives, we create shinpa, or grasping, that results in suffering in our lives. But it's the very idea of what we've grasped onto that we can hold more lightly in order to be in the flow of our lives. So you see, this spiritual solution, this spiritual way of life, is not about coming to that place of where it's all wonderful and I don't have any problems at all. It is about recognizing what the challenges are moving me into. How can I be curious in faith that God is for me and directing me to the highest and best in my life? One of the ways that we can do that is by recognizing that nothing and no one is against us. Now, that can be a rather outrageous idea if we've never heard it before, if we've never actually examined it and given a moment to explore it. But you see, everything in your life up until this point has worked to bring you to who you are now. Has there been suffering? Has there been challenges? Has there been difficulty? Well, yes, of course. That's a part of our human condition. But you see, the power of God within you, the Christ idea within you, within me, within all of us, is moving us beyond the suffering, so that we no longer have to be stuck or stayed in that. We can move into a greater being and a greater way of being in concert with life, of being in flow with this music of the spheres. Robert Brummett goes on to say that our human personalities would not choose this condition. Can anybody say that about what's been going on in the last 2 years? Can you consider the possibility that your human personality wouldn't choose this condition? And we would possibly like it to go away. Can I see I can figure that you'd, yeah. Yet, we can consider the possibility of inner wisdom at work in our lives. There is an inner wisdom that is taking place right now, expressing in our lives and throughout all of our existence. Let's acknowledge that that inner wisdom is here. For that matter, let's just live with the possibility that that inner wisdom is expressing in the circumstances of life. You see, the results of living in that question are a great deal more life-affirming, life-giving than, well, this is all wrong. Something needs to get fixed. I think we're pretty familiar with where that leads us. It leads us into more dissension and more discord and more dis-ease. Let's open to the possibility that faith in the question, faith in what possibilities are being lived in us, can bring a greater sense of all is well, a greater sense of harmony, a greater sense of listening to what we hear and bringing our voice, our lives into concert and harmony as well. Alan Watts is a contemporary spiritual teacher who has had an impact in a number of people's lives in regard to living in curiosity, living in the question. Alan Watts once wrote that by replacing fear of the unknown with curiosity, we open ourselves up to an infinite stream of possibility. We can let fear rule our lives, or we can become childlike with curiosity. When we anticipate what is life bringing, what is the source of all that is revealing in me and revealing in our lives, we can be in excitement, wonder, delight, and curiosity. When we're stuck and stayed in certainty, it's a closed-ended system. When I am absolutely right about my opinion, I have closed myself off and hardened my heart from a flexibility that can bring an amazing beauty in this world. Let's recognize that we can hold faith to what's next. What could possibly be being revealed right here and right now? As I mentioned earlier, my calling to be a minister has taken many twists and turns and many different possibilities that I would have never guessed or never expected. Serving here in this church has given me the opportunity to serve in a church just on the other side of the island. And it's an amazing blessing and an amazing gift that I would have never conceived when I first came here. Yet when my willingness to be curious about what is God revealing to me, I can then let go of what I had previously decided was absolutely supposed to take place. If I had chosen the path of limitation, which means that I could only see certain things that would be possible, that potential would have never taken place. Today, I stand before you on the platform of the church on the other side of the island in order to recognize that there is a union and a unity to all of life. If I am willing, if we are willing to be curious about where life is leading us, where is faith taking me? Albert Einstein, one of the most significant minds of quite a few centuries, made a statement once. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. I'd like to invite you to consider that curiosity is where you can place your faith. What's next in life? Who am I here to be? How can that be revealed in the things that are going on? Rather than being certain about where your faith has led you or where your faith has to lead you, let's be open and curious about what is before us. What is in the flow and in our lives. So I'm going to invite you to take a moment and allow yourself to relax exactly where you are, to recognize that the body has brought you to this holy instant right here and right now. Maybe you're at home and you're completely relaxed already, so I'm going to invite you to relax just a little deeper. And ask you to place your left hand on your chest and place your right hand on your belly. And just notice the flow of your breath. And if you'd like to, close your eyes. And just allow the flow of the breath to fill the belly, like you're filling a bottle. Allow that flow to fill you and eventually fill your lungs and your chest with air as well. In this moment, we are mindful of the flow of breath and life into us and out of us. Just allow that inflation of the chest to release. Allow that inflation of the belly to release. As we bring conscious awareness to the flow of breath, we recognize that this flow of breath has been taking place long before we directed our attention to it. It will take place long after as well. You see, you are already and have always been in the flow. Are your thoughts embracing what faith can bring to you? Can you allow this flow of life to lift you into your greatest life right here and right now? In relaxation, with our eyes closed, with the body relaxed, we allow the flow of faith to ease us, to ease you into the holy instant taking place right here and right now. Let's allow this wondrous flow here, now, in sacred and holy silence. As we've been mindful of the source of life, in this time of stillness and in this time of quiet, we allow this flow of life to go forth and move us into the flow. This space of meditation creates a resonance and vibration for our lives. We go into a consciousness and an awareness that God's infinite, wondrous good is flowing as you, flowing as me, and flowing as faith. And so we let it be. It is.